When I started this channel last year, I was all into the KTM 390 Adventure. That bike pretty much kicked off my 2023 riding season, and up until that point, I had all but quit riding, and the Z900 I had in the garage was just collecting dust. I had no practical rationale for wanting the KTM other than I was just bored. And I found the 2022 that I own, and I went and got it. The KTM was the first single cylinder I'd ever owned, the first KTM I'd ever owned, as well as being the first sub 500 motorcycle I'd ever owned. Sadly, it was also the first ride-by-wire motorcycle that broke down on me. Let's get into it. So last October, the KTM 390 Adventure nearly left me stranded, and once I nursed it home, the throttle was pretty much dead, comatose, non-responsive, done, put a fork in it. The KTM would start up and idle, and that was it. The timing was really bad. The riding season hadn't quite concluded, and I'd installed a few mods on the bike that I was pretty excited about, and I wanted to share them with you all. The KTM set several months, and when I finally got the motivation to investigate the problem, I noticed the battery was reading low, and I really hoped that it was reading low when the bike tried to break down on me. So I installed a new battery, and I prayed, and it wasn't the battery. Before procrastinating all winter, I'd read the KTM 390s had problems with throttle controls, especially the 2022 bikes. There must have been a bad batch or something. The symptoms of a faulty throttle matched my bike symptoms, which were no throttle response, check engine light, and, the bike wasn't going anywhere. It's a symptom, isn't it? So I plunked down $130 or so, and I ordered a new throttle. Then I found out the terrible part, which was putting the new throttle on required I take apart the entire headlamp assembly to access a wiring harness. So a few weeks ago, I grabbed a beer and some tools, and I got after the job of installing the throttle. The repair took a really long time. I didn't finish it the same day. I had to order some new fasteners because I lost some of them, which is my fault. And some of the plastic panels around the headlight, which are made out of like Indian sugar garbage or something, they're brittle. They practically disintegrate in my hands. And I had to order a few panels to replace broken panels. Now, the good news is the panels are cheap, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. But here she is, y'all, all back in one piece. And at this point, I haven't ridden the 390 in a very, very long time. I've spent a lot of time on other more powerful and more sophisticated motorcycles, and I have no idea how I'm going to feel about the KTM. So I'm going to go gear up and get on the bike, and I'll meet you there. So what do I think about the KTM 390 after being off of it for about 6 months? Well, it still turns the way I remember it. Not the best turning bike I have now, but definitely not the worst. Probably my number 2 best handling motorcycle. The throttle is sort of dead around 6K there. And I'm really worried about that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the bike, but every time it feels a little flat, it freaks me out. It brings back like PTSD of being stranded on the side of the road about 10 miles from here. And it's not a good feeling. I'm worried I can't trust it anymore. Now, the flat spot could be a result of not having a Fuel X light on the motorcycle. So when I was riding this last year, I had a Fuel X light that the previous owner had installed, and when the bike left me, and when the bike broke down, I took the Fuel X light out as a troubleshooting step because, dead throttle and computer that alters your fuel mapping, you're thinking there could be a relationship there. Turns out it was not the Fuel X light that was the problem. So maybe I could put the Fuel X light back in and see if the dead throttle feeling goes away. I'm just not exactly sure. The throttle response on the KTM 390 is still really, really good. The way I remember it being, it's probably the nicest ride-by-wire throttle response of any bike I've ridden. including the new BMW I have back at the house, which is a much nicer bike, and I'm not saying this is better than that, but throttle response wise, this thing is just butter. And it could be a combination of a very low powered motor with a really good fuel map that KTM has blessed this bike with. I'm not sure, but it's nice. It's never going to catch you off guard in a corner coming in or out of it. You know, it just feels nice. The sound is still the little single cylinder that could, you know, it sounds like a little dirt bike. I've got the resonator box taken out of this bike. I did that, I believe, after I filmed my last video on it last year. Yeah, it's got a little tone. It's not too loud though. When you're not on the gas, you don't really notice it. When you get on it, you can hear it, and that's really what I like. You know, I like a bike that's quiet when I'm not wailing on it, and gives me a little bit of a, hey, I'm still there kind of tone when I'm on it. The bike is taller than I remember it being. You know, having not sat on it in a while, you're really up here. It's a little shocking how tall this bike is for a 390. But besides that, the ergonomics are really nice. The handlebars are really great. You can stand up on it really easily without a lot of drama. It would be nice if the handlebars were a couple inches higher. But man, that's not bad. It's way better than the BMW I just bought. And almost as good as the DR650. I love the downshifts on this bike. You know, the feeling and the light clutch is just magic. And being able to use the gearbox and not, like, you know, wide open throttle and not run into the back of somebody in front of you is great. I mean, fourth gear on this bike at 47, 48 miles an hour, you know, it's fun. It's a really fun little ride. You're on two wheels, you're on a motorcycle, you're having a good time, and you're not putting yourself in nearly as much risk as you would on maybe a mid-sized bike or higher. Well, that was fun. I really was nervous. Every time I felt the throttle sort of hit that flat spot or two that's in the rev range, it really did freak me out. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I don't know if that's going to wear off. Maybe it will. But that's why I need your input. When choosing a motorcycle to ride into a remote area, how comfy are you with ride-by-wire and modern electronics? Have you ever had any issues with electronics that left you stranded on an adventure bike or otherwise? And has your KTM left you stranded with a throttle problem? I would really like to know, especially what year KTM you were riding. So leave your comments below. I really want to read them, and I really feel like in this case I need them. So help me out. And if you like the video, go ahead and subscribe so that you can see more content like this. I have some fun stuff coming on a new motorcycle, as well as some moto vlogging hardware videos coming. And that's it. Until next time, guys and gals, keep it shiny side up and ride safe.